Mr. President, off.
Danish People's Party MEP Anders Vistisen was reprimanded after using foul language in a tirade against US President Donald Trump.
Let me put this in words you might understand. Mr. President, off.
It's against our rules. As much as you might feel, or the room might feel in this, we have clear rules about cuss words, language that is inappropriate in this room. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it is unacceptable, even if you might have strong political feelings about this.
It's interesting that it's a semantic exercise, but the message was clear then, because the only language Trump understands is direct language, and the only rebuttal that Trump understands is a strong one from the EU, but the EU has given in. The High Representative said it's legitimate to talk about security challenges in the Arctic. It's the US administration which has cut the number of soldiers from 15,000 to just 150. We talk about saying it's legitimate to talk about the rare earth resources in Greenland, but that's up to the Greenlanders. We have a trade agreement, so this House would have been happy to sign it, even though we have high tariffs on Europe but none on the US.
As Europe stumbles to conjure up a strategy to rebuff Trump's threat to annex Greenland, Vistisen said the only language Trump would hear would be direct. Others believe the way to pressure Trump is financial. The US is heavily indebted and the EU holds trillions of dollars in US treasuries and assets. A mass sell-off could trigger a financial crisis and prompt the president to think twice. Trump has repeatedly laid claim to Greenland.
We have to have it. They have to have this done. They can protect it. Denmark, they're wonderful people. And I know the leaders are very good people, but they don't even go there. And, you know, because the boat went there 500 years ago and then left, that doesn't give you title to property. So we'll be talking about it with the various people. We've had tremendous success, and I've done more for NATO than anybody else. I don't think you'd have NATO right now. I got them to go 5% and pay as opposed to 2% and not pay. I've done more than any other American president for NATO by far. And we'll see how that goes, but Greenland is very important.
How far are you willing to go to acquire Greenland?
You'll find out.
EU President Ursula von der Leyen threw her support behind Denmark.
Greenland is home to a free and sovereign people. It is a nation with its sovereignty and its right to territorial integrity. And the future of Greenland is only for the Greenlanders to decide.
The rest of the Europeans have sought to placate Trump, first by sending forces to Greenland to prove they could defend the territory from the Russians or the Chinese. But this backfired, and Trump threatened to slap tariffs on the UK and other major European powers, saying the US has subsidised Europe for decades and it was, quote, time for Denmark to give back. While French President Emmanuel Macron sought to retaliate, Sir Keir Starmer made it clear Britain wouldn't.
Any decision about the future status of Greenland belongs to the people of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone. That right is fundamental, and we support it. A trade war is in no one's interest.
Attempts to negotiate a way forward were rebuffed, as Trump snubbed an emergency G7 meeting and exposed his personal text messages with Macron. Macron had outlined their agreement on Iran and Syria and invited Trump for a personal dinner in Paris. The president did not attend.
President, could you still go to Paris for the G7 emergency meeting as offered by President Macron?
No, I wouldn't do that. No. Because, Emmanuel's not going to be there very long. And, there's no longevity there. He's a friend of mine. He's a nice guy. I like Macron. But he's not going to be there very much longer, as you know. And
Thanking NATO boss Rutte, Trump posted their text to Truth Social, in which Rutte had promised to highlight the president's work, signing off with "Can't wait to see you." In Britain, politicians have been united in their opposition to the US's bid for Greenland. Trump's longtime ally and friend Nigel Farage called his threats a hostile act.
But to have a US president threatening tariffs unless we agree that he can take over Greenland by some means, without, it seems, even getting the consent of the people of Greenland, I mean, this is a very hostile act. There's no other way I can put it.
Yes, the president has a certain manner in which he goes about doing things, and sometimes it's for the effect, the public effect, the shock and awe that is a means to an end.
This is the take him seriously but not literally stuff.
You've heard that phrase, and that's right. We take him seriously, not always literally, and I think he's okay with that. Whereas in America, the far left media, they take him always literally and not seriously, and I think that's their mistake. I think what the president has in mind with Greenland is he understands the strategic significance of that, the increasing significance, as you said, we all get it.
I get it.
That's the point, is that I think he wants all of our allies to get it. We face what I believe to be an increasing threat from China, Russia, Iran.
There is this principle of the self-determination of peoples.
Sure.
It's the very thing you're celebrating with,
that's right.
With this 250th anniversary. And I'm just arguing that you know, if Trump wanted a strong economic partnership with Greenland, and, you know, you could look at rare earth minerals and all the other things that might come from it, but to threaten to use force, physical force, or economic force against your allies to get your own way, I mean, this does threaten. This does threaten NATO.
Yesterday, Trump attacked Norway for the fact he hadn't won last year's Nobel Peace Prize, saying he no longer felt obligated to peace.
Well, I lost a lot of respect for Norway. And I believe very strongly that Norway controls the Nobel Prize. But you have to understand, I settled 8 wars. I've had every one of those wars, every participant wrote, I didn't ask him to do it. They sent in strong they make recommendations for that. But I settled 8 wars. No president's probably ever settled 1 war. I don't know, think of it. I did 8. The reason I do it is because it's easy for me to do. And I didn't do it for a Nobel Prize. I did it because I'm saving a lot of lives. I'm trying to settle the final one. I'm trying to do Russia-Ukraine. And when Russia's ready, Ukraine's not. When Ukraine's ready, Russia's not. But they're losing 25,000 people a month on average. And I'm trying to get that one done. But no, I feel that Norway has tremendous control over who gets the Nobel Prize, despite what they say.
The fury in Denmark, however, remains. Reports are emerging that an erratic US government could scare off foreign investment. One Danish pension fund decided Tuesday to sell off $100 million in US treasuries. The move is being floated as a way Europeans could apply pressure to Trump in order to get him to back off. When asked about this, the administration shot back at what it called fake news media. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent dismissed Denmark as irrelevant.
The size, Denmark's investment in U.S. Treasury bonds, like Denmark itself, is irrelevant. That it's less than $100 million. They've been selling treasuries for years. I'm not concerned at all.
European countries together hold nearly 40% of foreign US treasuries and over $12 trillion in US assets. Donald Trump will make a speech at the annual World Economic Forum in Davos this Wednesday. Nick Dunning, GB News.